ever feel like everyone's speaking a different language when it comes to AI? Like it's too much jargon, all this complexity. It can be kind of overwhelming to wrap your head around.
Right.
What if we could like simplify it, break it down into something we can all relate to?
Okay, yeah.
Like, say, baking a pie.
Okay.
That's what this deep dive we're doing is all about.
hmm
The source material is called Making AI Easy as Pie.
It is a brilliant analogy.
It is.
It demystifies the whole process. And that's what I like about it. It really emphasizes that building AI, it's not about magic, it's about following a clear set of steps, just like when you're following a recipe.
Yeah, and speaking of recipes, they start by talking about the importance of good ingredients,
Of course.
which in this case means enterprise knowledge. And what really connected with me was how they relate that to data we interact with every day.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
about recognizing that data is all around us.
Yeah.
It's everything. It's, think about customer information, sales figures, all that website traffic.
Right.
It's all potential ingredients that we can use for AI. But the key is you have to understand what you have and how you can use it.
It's like, when you're in your kitchen and you're looking at your pantry and you're
Yeah.
like, oh, I've got all this stuff, all these interesting ingredients.
Yeah.
And you start to imagine what you can create.
Exactly.
But before we get ahead of ourselves, the podcast also emphasizes the importance of a semantic data layer.
Right.
And they even go so far as to compare it to a well-organized Lego box.
And that's such a helpful comparison, right?
It is.
Because it helps you visualize it.
Mm.
So instead of having, just like a huge bin of Legos all jumbled together, you have this, system in place to organize your data effectively.
So are we talking about like specific tools or technologies here? What is it that makes this data pantry?
So that's where things like retrieval systems and graph databases come in. Think of those as your like high-tech organizational tools, right? So a retrieval system, for instance. A retrieval system can help categorize and label your data. And this makes it easy for your AI to find what it needs. Just like, if you have your spices and they're all labeled in your spice rack.
It's like having a system for your data
Yeah.
instead of just having a bunch of digital files scattered all over the place.
Yeah. You got to organize it.
But a good chef needs more than just ingredients in a pantry, right? They need to know what to do with it all.
Exactly. And that's where the podcast introduces this idea of foundation models
Yeah.
and MLOps. Like that's the recipe and toolkit for your AI.
So we've got all our ingredients prepped and ready to go. Our data pantry's all organized.
Right.
Now we need the actual recipe. Like, how do we bring it all together?
Yeah.
What does the deep dive say about that?
So it talks about this idea. Well, it says instead of us having to come up with invent our own recipes from scratch.
Which can be a lot of work.
Yeah, right. Which can be really intimidating, especially if you're just starting out. We can use these things called foundation models. And these are like, you can think of them as pre-built models.
Yeah.
That have already been trained on huge, like massive data sets.
Yeah.
And they provide this like really strong foundation for building out your AI application.
So instead of me spending months trying to perfect a pie crust from scratch,
Yeah.
I can just go to the store and be like, all right, I'll take that pre-made pie crust.
Exactly.
I'll just focus on making my own special filling.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And these foundation models, there's things like large language models. You've probably heard of those. LLMs.
LLMs, right.
They've already been trained on tons of data.
Mm-hmm.
And they can understand all sorts of stuff like language, images, even code.
Wow.
So it's all about like leveraging all of this existing knowledge so you don't have to start from scratch,
Mm-hmm.
You can accelerate your AI development.
Makes a lot of sense. But even if I have a pre-made pie crust, I still need, the tools, the techniques to actually bake the darn thing.
Right.
That's where MLOps comes in.
Right. Yeah. MLOps. So that refers to the tools and the processes that you use to develop, deploy, and manage your AI models.
Okay.
So it's like, think of it as having all the right baking equipment, You got to have your measuring cups to be precise. You need your stand mixer if you're going to do this a lot.
Right.
And then you need your oven that's going to, bake everything evenly.
So MLOps is like having a structured, efficient workflow,
Exactly.
but for your AI project.
Yes, precisely. It's making sure that your AI models, they're trained right, they're deployed smoothly, and then they're managed effectively throughout their entire life cycle.
So that includes what? Like monitoring how well they're doing?
Yeah, like, monitoring their performance, making updates when you need to. It's the whole 9 yards.
So it kind of brings this sense of repeatability and scalability
Yes.
to the AI development process, which seems, I don't know, kind of crucial if you're talking about using this in the real world.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
think about it. If you're running a bakery,
Right.
right, and you're making hundreds of pies a day, you need to have some sort of standardized process.
You can't be like, well, Bob makes it this way and Susie makes it this other way.
Exactly. You need that consistency, that efficiency. And it's the same with AI. MLOps helps you build and deploy AI solutions, but at scale.
Yeah.
It's really fascinating how all of this complex stuff, we can break it down into this, like baking a pie analogy.
It really is. It helps to make it make sense.
Right.
But we can't forget about the final product.
Right.
The best part.
Of course. Yeah.
What does the podcast say about actually creating, the AI dish?
So this is where, like, all of your effort, it leads to a tangible result. And that's the AI application. This is what you've been working towards. It's the end product of all that good data, having a well-organized data layer, having your foundation models, using efficient MLOps practices. It's everything all coming together.
So this is where we go from just having the ingredients, the recipe, to an actual, functional dish.
Yes.
That serves a purpose, that does something. It's like taking all those Legos we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
And actually building something incredible, something, someone would look at and be like, whoa.
Exactly. And just like Legos, like the possibilities, they're limitless.
Yeah.
They really depend on what you want to do. What are your goals? What's your creative vision? You might create an AI application that automates some task that you don't like doing.
That you're like, ugh, this is so boring.
Yeah, I hate doing this.
Yeah.
Exactly. Or you could analyze customer data and, improve your service.
Oh, interesting.
Or even you can generate really cool creative content. Who knows? The sky's the limit.
This is what I don't know, this is what gets me so excited about AI. It's like all this potential to solve problems and, just improve our lives in so many different ways.
Yeah.
But I imagine that there's a lot of people who, I don't know, they hear AI and they're like, that's so technical. I could never.
Oh, absolutely. People can definitely feel intimidated, by the technical aspects of it. But the beauty of this whole recipe approach is it makes AI accessible. You don't have to be, some kind of coding genius to understand the fundamental steps that are involved.
It's kind of an empowering message.
Right.
It's like we can be the chefs.
Yes.
We don't have to just be the ones eating the AI. We can actually make it.
Exactly. Be the chef, not the consumer. I love that. And it's about realizing that the real power of AI, it's not about how complex it is.
Right.
It's about us. It's about our human ability to ask the right questions.
Okay.
Right. We have to identify the problems that, like we were just saying, that we want to solve, the opportunities that are out there. And then we can leverage AI as a tool to achieve all those things.
So instead of us getting lost in the weeds of all the technical stuff.
Yeah. Don't get bogged down by the technical stuff right away.
We need to focus on what are we even trying to do with this? What are we building? What's the end goal here?
Exactly. Think about it. A chef doesn't walk into the kitchen and just obsess over how the heating element in the oven works.
Right. They're not like, I need to take this apart and figure out what's going on in there.
Exactly. They start with an idea for this delicious dish that they want to make.
Yeah.
And then they use their tools and their skills to make that happen.
Okay, so it's all about shifting our perspective from being intimidated by how complex it is to looking at AI as a creative tool
Yes.
to solve problems.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. You hit the nail on the head. And that's what I really like about, the podcast that we're breaking down, is it does a really good job of highlighting this shift in how we think about it. It encourages people, the listeners, to see themselves as these capable AI cooks.
I love that.
Right. That have the knowledge and the resources to go out and create something awesome, something valuable.
Yeah, instead of being afraid of it, we should look at it like, we got this.
Exactly. Yeah, we got this. Everyone, all the listeners, they have access to those ingredients that we were talking about. The data, the knowledge, the experiences that they have. And when you combine that with the right recipe and tools, who knows what you can make. It could be really remarkable.
So we covered a lot of ground here. We talked about the ingredients and getting organized and the recipe, the tools.
It's a lot.
It is. If our listeners walk away from this, this whole AI is baking thing with just one thing, what should it be? What's the big one?
The thing that I hope they really take to heart is that AI isn't like, this mystical thing
Right.
that you can't even understand.
It's not magic.
It's not magic. It's a process. It's
Yeah.
like a framework.
Yeah.
And just like any good recipe, you can learn it.
You can become the expert.
Exactly. You
Yeah.
can master it.
Yeah.
If you've got the right approach.
So we can be the chefs of AI.
Yes.
We don't have to just be the ones, consuming it.
Exactly.
We can actually make it.
You got it. Be the chef, not the consumer.
Yeah.
I love that. And I think it all comes down to this. The real power of AI. It's not how complicated it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's about us humans,
Oh, okay.
and our ability to ask the right questions.
So we need to figure out, okay, what are the problems that I want to solve?
Yes.
What are the cool opportunities that are out there?
Exactly.
And then how can I use AI to do that?
Yes. And this podcast, I really like that they do that, that
Right.
they encourage that kind of thinking, to figure out what you're trying to solve. Don't even worry about the technical stuff yet. Just figure out what it is you want to do.
Right. So, don't get lost in, oh, but how does the AI work?
Right, exactly. Don't get bogged down in the how just yet.
To figure out the what first.
Yes, exactly. Think about it. Think about, a chef in the kitchen.
They're not trying to, take apart the oven.
Exactly. They don't walk in there and go, I'm going to take this apart and figure out how all this stuff works.
Right. No. They start with, what delicious thing am I going to create?
Yeah. What's the vision?
Exactly. And then they use their tools and skills to make that happen.
So it's like we need to shift our perspective
Mhm.
from AI as this big, scary, complicated thing
Yeah, it's intimidating.
to AI as a tool I can use to solve problems.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%. That is exactly it. You hit the nail on the head.
And this podcast, I really like how they emphasize that,
Yeah.
shifting that perspective and encouraging the listeners to think of themselves as, these AI chefs.
Yes. Love it. It's so true.
They have what it takes
Yes.
to go out and create something cool, something new.
You got it. And they've got the ingredients already.
They do.
All those experiences they have, that's the data.
Yeah.
That's what they're going to bring to the table. Yeah, they just need to, figure out how to use it. And hopefully this whole baking a pie analogy will, help with that.
Right. Exactly. Give them that framework.
Well, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for, diving into this with me. This making AI easy as pie. I think that's such a good analogy and a good way to think about AI.
Yeah, it's a good one. It breaks it down, makes it so much easier to understand.
And thank you to all of our listeners for, tuning in and sticking with us. Until next time.